Blackwater was part of it, at least back in 2004. The aim of the program, to conduct training, surveillance, and yes, potentially get into the full phase of targeted killing of top al-Qaeda leaders that the U.S. wanted to get. Now, this is all very interesting because Blackwater, of course, is one of the best-known and most controversial private security contractor firms in the country. They have worked in Iraq for many years, in Afghanistan, around the world. They have hired previous CIA top officials to work for Blackwater. They have a very tight relationship with the intelligence community. By all accounts, Mr. Panetta canceled the program in no small part because it had been going on for several years, moving through various phases, but Congress had never been notified about the program as would have been required under law. So Panetta went ahead and canceled it. It never went into full operational play. John?
If the CIA, Barbara, was going to get into the business of assassinating top terrorist leaders, why not just use the military to do it? Why hire an outside contractor?
Right.
Yeah, why outsource the job when you have a United States military that is actually trained and equipped to do just that? Well, the source that is familiar with the program told us the aim here was to put some distance between the official entities of the U.S. government. That means the U.S. military and the CIA. Make this an unofficial program with no public face on it, no ties to the U.S. government. This would have been as covert and secret as it gets. If these operatives, if these contractors had been on a mission to kill and had been captured or something had gone wrong, it would have been much easier for there to be no U.S. face on it. John?
Barbara Starr,
what about the money?
With the latest on all
what
of that.
About the money? The waste of money.
This morning, confirming that voting in Afghanistan
wasting money on
an hour. The Afghan Election Commission
hitman wasting money on
voters who are risking their lives and defying Taliban threats to cast their vote.
It's not funny, but it is funny because
is live in
they
Kabul
do things, waste money that we don't even know.
Now it said that they're going to extend the voting for 1 hour. What does that mean when there were questions about turnout? Well, Karen, to be honest with you, it doesn't mean much. The polling station here does not get that message, and this is in the capital city of Kabul. So there will be polling stations throughout the country that do not know that it has been extended from an hour. They have already started counting ballots. In fact, they're finished with some of the rooms because there was a very low turnout here. We saw people trickling in. We did see some civilians, but primarily government officials and candidates themselves for the provincial council seats, as well as the presidency. But this goes to show you that the Taliban threats were made good. This past week leading up to the elections here in Kabul with 2 suicide car bombings in a span of 4 days. The Afghan people thinking, is it really worth me coming out to vote if my vote won't count? Should I risk my life? And many of them decided not to. Karen? All right, Tia Bowie for us this morning in Kabul, Afghanistan. Very interesting perspective. As you said, the one you're standing outside of apparently didn't get the message because they're closed and they're counting their ballots now. Thank you.
We want to get to the breaking news out of Scotland. More than 20 years after Pan Am Flight 103 was blown out of the sky, it now looks as though the bomber is going to be released. Let's go live to a press conference in Edinburgh, Scotland, and listen in for a few minutes.
In considering these applications, I have strictly followed due process, including the procedures laid down in the prisoner transfer agreement and in the Scottish Prison Service guidance on compassionate release. I have listened to many representations and received substantial submissions. Let me be quite clear on matters in which I am certain. The Scottish Police and Prosecution Service undertook a detailed and comprehensive investigation with the assistance of the US and other authorities. I pay tribute to them for the exceptional manner in which they operated in dealing with both the aftermath of the atrocity and the complexity of a worldwide investigation. They are to be commended for their tenacity and skill. When Mr. Megrahi was brought to justice, it was before a Scottish court sitting in the Netherlands. And I pay tribute to our judges who presided and acted justly. Mr. Megrahi was sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of 270 people. He was given a life sentence, and the punishment part of 27 years was fixed. When such an appalling crime is perpetrated, it is appropriate that a severe sentence be imposed.
So why is he getting out?
Mr. Megrahi has since withdrawn his appeal against both conviction and sentence. As I have said consistently throughout, that is a matter for him and the courts. That was his decision. My decisions are predicated on the fact that he was properly investigated, a lawful conviction passed, and a life sentence imposed. I realize that the abandonment of the appeal has caused concern to many. I have indicated that I am grateful to and proud of those who have served in whatever capacity
20 and a
in
half
bringing
years.
this case to justice. I accept the conviction and sentence imposed. However, there remains concerns to some on the wider issues of the Lockerbie atrocity.
Right.
This is a global issue and international in its nature. The questions to be asked...
That's Kenny McCaskill, who is the Scottish Minister of Justice, laying out the background of the Abdel Megrahi case, convicted in 2001 of bombing Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland, killing 270 people, was sentenced to 27 years in jail, ostensibly a life sentence. He has since developed terminal prostate cancer, and McCaskill is about to announce, we hope, whether or not he is going to be released. That's why we're staying with this. Diana Megrahi is on the ground for us in Greenwich, Scotland. What are we expecting here, Diana, out of all of
Been there
this?
like 8 years.
Hi, John. Well, the expectation is that he will be released on compassionate grounds to spend the last few weeks of his life in Libya with his family as a free man. His legal team say that he is very close to dying with terminal prostate cancer, and that is the expectation as we listen to Kenny McCaskill go through the facts of the case, John.
So can everybody that's terminally ill in prison get out to be with their family? Everybody should be able to get out if he gets out.
Or so, whether or not Megrahi will be released, the expectation.
I'm serious. If he gets out, everybody that's terminally ill in jail, not just high-profile cases, should get out of jail. That's ridiculous. They don't even give you vitamins in jail either.
This is an incredibly controversial decision, which is possibly why Kenny McCaskill has taken really quite such a long time trying to make that decision. We know that he went to visit Megrahi in prison to see for himself his condition about 3 weeks ago. And over that period of time, he's been trying to make up his mind. The U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton demanding at the beginning of this week that Megrahi spend the rest of his term in a Scottish jail as sentenced. But the question of compassionate grounds really must depend slightly upon the elements of doubt that still linger in this case. The fact that a Scottish Criminal Cases Review Board did re-examine the evidence over a 3-year period and say that there were perhaps grounds to believe there had been a miscarriage of justice in this case, which was why Megrahi was granted the right to a second appeal, which he has now dropped, John.
Right, let's go back and listen to
I
more.
say if we let him out, everybody is dying to come out of prison.
I received numerous letters
Everybody.
and representations and recognized
Well, see, we're just
that
more
a decision
compassionate.
on transfer
Let everybody out to go
would be
die
of
with their
personal
family.
significance to those whose lives
Can't just be picky
have
here.
been affected.
Like
accordingly,
profile shit.
I decided to
Everybody
meet
should get out.
with groups and individuals with a relevant interest. I met with the families of victims, those from the United Kingdom who had relatives on board the flight, as well as those whose kinfolk were murdered in their homes in Lockerbie. A lady from Spain,
Terrible.
whose sister was a member of the cabin crew. And I held a video conference with families
10 seconds.
from the United States. I'm grateful to each and every one of them for their fortitude on a matter which I know is still a source of great pain.
I bet. Yeah.
I also spoke to the United States
We
Secretary of State,
go.
Hillary
2 minutes.
Clinton,
I guess it's getting out.
United States
But
Attorney
everybody
General
should get out of jail if they're ill
holder.
on death's door. Everybody should get out.
Minister,
Steve.
I will be